Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tulo Hoyani. This afternoon, I want to look at this photo, this evidence around the gold tooth that Mngube is supposed to have had. Mnisi was granted leave by the court to enlist the services of a dental surgeon. So that procedure has been undertaken and there's a report. So this morning when proceedings commenced, they wanted to hand in that report and the judge said, no. I cannot have sight of that report without evidence being laid. In other words, he cannot be shown that report and, without a witness being confronted or that evidence of the report being laid in court. Because if you were to see that report before evidence is laid, it means that he will know, one way or the other, form opinions about it before it is formally laid in court. So the judge rightly pointed out that he will not be looking at that report by the dental surgeon to determine whether or not Mthobisi Mngube ever had a gold tooth. But let me give you some angle to this. Another angle to this is, you see, it is Mnisi who has sought that evidence. And the intention of Mnisi to seek that evidence was to disprove that Mthobisi Mngube ever had a gold tooth. So if that report, for one reason or another, says Mthobisi Mngube once had a gold tooth, then Mnisi must not use it. It is his evidence. He is under no obligation to produce a report that might well say Mthobisi Mngube had a gold tooth. Because what he's trying to establish before that court is that Mthobisi Mngube never had a gold tooth and thus could never have been one of the people who burst into the Khumalo house who supposedly had a gold tooth. That is how it goes. And he cannot be compelled under those circumstances to produce or to lead that evidence. Because that is evidence in his possession. He may or may not use that evidence if it is unfavorable to him. So this morning, Warrant Officer Mabasa was not there. I think it's Moses Mabasa was not there. He was reported in Brixton, which is in Joburg, and it's an hour's drive away. So we are stuck now with this situation where Mnisi has to use that evidence provided it is favorable. You see, the history of this gold tooth is also a very dubious and interesting one. None of the people in the house definitively, described the features of these people. But for some strange reason, this gold tooth comes into the picture. Now, where did this gold tooth story begin? You recall there was that Thabang Makeleni. Thabang Makeleni has since passed away. But evidence has been laid in that court, strangely enough, that it was Thabang Makeleni who saw one of the intruders into the house, just outside the house, and that he had spotted a gold tooth in his mouth. And that was outside the house because Makeleni was not in the MEYIWA house on the night that Senzo MEYIWA was killed. Now the interesting thing is, Senzo was killed at about 8:30 at night. You see, this Thabang Makeleni is supposed to have spotted this gold teeth at that particular point in time when it was dark and it was outside the house. But interestingly, Makeleni does not provide any description, any definitive description of what the intruders looked like except that one of them had a gold tooth. Now, how do you spot? It is very interesting. How do you spot a gold tooth at 8:30 at night from an intruder who is supposed to have shot sense of MEYIWA in the house, who got out of that house running? And is that possible? Did he just stop and wait and bare his teeth at you for you to spot that he had a gold tooth? It is frankly just unbelievable. It does not sound too true to me. Now, the other thing is Thabang Makeleni. You see, Thabang Makeleni is deceased. Thabang Makeleni never gave evidence in that court, so that the defense never had an opportunity to cross-examine Makeleni to establish the veracity of this evidence that is now before that court. So that prejudices the defense also, because you see, because Makeleni unfortunately has passed away, he cannot be cross-examined on this sighting of this gold tooth. And why should the sighting of this gold tooth keep on moving from one person to another? Just who did Makeleni see with the gold tooth? Remember, it was supposed to be Bongani Ntanzi, accused number 2. Bongani Ntanzi went that dental procedure. Sorry. Bongani Ntanzi underwent that dental procedure to determine whether he ever had a gold tooth. And that was rubbished by the doctor who examined him, who determined that at no stage had Ntanzi ever had a gold tooth. So at this belated stage now, this is information now, these photographs, after you see the state has failed, after the prosecution has failed to say or to link the gold tooth to Ntanzi, they are now fishing in the dark looking for something else. And they say that it was during that long recess when Advocate Mnisi was familiarizing himself with the 40,000, 50,000 page record when he was supposed to take over as accused number 1, one's legal representative. They say it was during that long adjournment that they discovered one of these photographs lacking somewhere. You see, this is a photograph. It is supposed to have been taken around 2014. Mapasa, I mean, who was that? Not Mapasa, Ndlovu, who could not definitively say when this photograph was taken. And the story about the photograph also is a very shaky story. But my advice to Mnisi is, if the doctor's report, proves that Mthobisi Mngube did in fact have a gold tooth, he doesn't have to use that evidence. It is open to him either to use or not to use that evidence. That is why the court said, that is why the judge said, no, I do not want to see. I do not want to see that report unless it is presented or I come across it as evidence is being led. In other words, if it is being used by the defense to challenge the observations that Mabasa says he made in that photograph of Mthobisi Mngube having a gold tooth. So that is my advice to if it is unfavorable, why use it? Because it will destroy your case. As simple as all that. Simple logic dictates that if it is not favorable, you just leave it alone and move on and look for something else. Having said that, let me thank you for watching this video and indeed all the other previous videos, and have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon and evening. Thank you.